Voters head to the polls in the US midterm elections as Republicans and Democrats vie for control of Congress.
A living nightmare. That's how Kenya's president has described the impacts of climate change for Africans at COP27.
Hiding phones from troops and no contact with the outside world. The accounts of life under Russian occupation by those who managed to flee. It's a crucial day in US politics as voters continue to cast their ballots in the midterm elections which will decide control of Congress. Opinion polls indicate a poor showing for the Democrats, which, if turns out to be correct, could see President Joe Biden's agenda for the remaining 2 years of his presidency derailed.
Of the United States.
On the eve of the elections, Biden and Republican favourite former President Donald Trump made their final pitches. Trump was in Ohio, where he had been expected to announce another run for the presidency. He talked about immigration and the economy, but in the end, only said he'd make a big announcement on the 15th of November.
This country has gone crazy. There's only one choice to end this madness. If you support the decline and fall of America, then you must, absolutely must, vote for the radical left crazy people, the radical left Democrats.
Biden held an evening rally in Maryland, a state normally considered a Democrat stronghold, telling supporters that democracy is at stake.
Remember, the power's in your hands. You're one of the reasons why I've never been more optimistic about America's future. Look, and let's be clear, this election is not a referendum, it's a choice. It's a choice between two very different visions of America.
6 states are at the centre of the political battle, and their results will likely determine control of the Senate and the House of Representatives.
Another climate summit set to be dominated by calls from developing countries that rich polluters pay for the harm their emissions have caused. At COP27's 5-minute address, several leaders said the crushing impacts of climate change are already a living nightmare for many, mainly in the southern half of the globe.
Africa contributes less than 3% of the pollution responsible for climate change, but is most severely impacted by the ensuing crisis. Africa, and it is therefore only fair and proper that this conference takes necessary measures to recognize Africa's special needs and circumstances.
The Prime Minister of Barbados, a country increasingly hit by weather extremes, was one of many leaders to slam industrialised nations for failing the developing world. Mia Mottley also cited a lack of help from richer nations in helping others transition to climate-friendly technology.
Our ability to access electric cars or our ability to access batteries or photovoltaic panels are constrained by those countries that have the dominant presence and can produce for themselves, but the global south remains at the mercy of the global north on these issues.
Wealthy countries had previously pledged $100 billion a year from 2020 to developing nations to help them build resilience and greener economies. But the UN says so far it's only reached $83 billion.
Loss and damage compensation, one of the main topics of COP27 this year in Egypt. The idea, make big polluters pay for climate damages in developing countries. For more, Euronews spoke to the European Commission President in Sharm el-Sheikh.
It is an important topic, and I'm happy that it is an agenda item this time at COP27. It was never before. So now it's important to sit down and really to define and sort out what is it, and then to look at the funding that is available. And I'm not speaking of the 100 billion that are for climate finance. There, the European Union is also doing its fair share, more than its fair share, with 23 billion. But I'm speaking about other funds we have to look at.
Surely the fast way to do this is a windfall tax on energy companies making record profits. Why isn't that happening?
We've just done the legislation in the European Union to enable the member states to put a windfall tax to skim off the excessive profits that energy producing companies have.
But are you telling other leaders that you're meeting here to do the same thing?
It's not me to tell them, but I can show them that it works in the European Union and that the member states take this money to support vulnerable households and vulnerable businesses. So this is a targeted approach, and that's absolutely the right thing to do. I think this is a crisis contribution by the energy producing companies that they should give.
One of the other criticisms actually coming from the poorer countries to the richer countries that I heard today was that the richer countries are actually keeping some of the new technologies, the electric cars, the batteries, etc., for themselves. Are we really putting enough fairness into this transition, or are we just trying to make it happen in Europe and not everywhere else?
It's a very important point. Let's take, for example, the 3 agreements at the COP27. One is with Kazakhstan on hydrogen, renewables, but also on batteries. And what we're doing is bringing investment, but also private investment, into the region. So Kazakhstan can develop the value chain, but it's not exclusive. It is, they decide how much they scale up and where they export to.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you. Real pleasure.
Ukraine has accused Russia of looting empty homes in the southern city of Kherson and occupying them with troops in civilian clothing. Kyiv officials claim it's part of preparations for close-quarters combat, in what both sides predict will be one of the war's most important battles. In recent days, Russia has ordered civilians out of the city. Kyiv calls this forced deportation and a war crime. Latest footage released by pro-Kremlin officials shows the last boat taking locals to the left bank of the Dnipro River. Accounts of life under Russian occupation by those who have fled tell of having to hide their phones from troops and the impossibility of contacting the outside world. Russia has imposed martial law and curtailed communications across 4 Ukrainian regions it proclaimed as its own in September. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said 80,000 troops who were part of his mobilization drive are now fighting in the zone of the special military operation, the term Russia uses for its war in Ukraine. The Ukrainian army, meanwhile, claims it's closing in on Kherson. The goal? To destroy Russian logistics and supply chains, rendering their presence there unviable.
2 migrant rescue charity ships are refusing to leave a Sicilian port after the Italian government blocked some migrants from disembarking, part of the directives of the country's new far-right government. The European Commission recalled on Monday the legal and moral obligation of the member states to save the lives of people in danger at sea. The German Foreign Ministry spokeswoman said that her government is in close contact with both the Italian authorities and civil society organizations to try to end the standoff.
Civilian maritime rescue must not be hindered. It's our moral and legal obligation not to let people drown at sea.
The new Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has promised to crack down on migrants traveling across the Mediterranean. Italy is one of the main entry points into Europe, and since the start of the year, 85,000 migrants have arrived on boats, according to the UN. Currently, only children and people with medical issues are allowed to disembark the ships.
A Moscow court has extended the arrest of Ilya Yashin until November 26. The opposition leader is one of the last outspoken Kremlin critics remaining in Russia and is facing charges of spreading false information about the military and the war in Ukraine. It's the second time Yashin's pre-trial detention has been extended.
Real Madrid will face Liverpool again in the Champions League last 16, in a repeat of last year's final. Madrid won their 14th Champions League in Paris last year, beating Liverpool 1-0, thanks to a goal from Vinicius Jr. In the other games drawn, Manchester City will meet German side RB Leipzig, while Tottenham face AC Milan. Chelsea also head to Germany with the tricky opposition of Borussia Dortmund. And the other standout draw is between Paris Saint-Germain versus Bayern Munich. The first legs for the last 16 will take place in mid-February.